Do you cry more easily than other people? Maybe over things that seem small to everyone else, a certain tone of voice, a quiet disappointment, a scene in a film that lingers in your chest long after it ends. Maybe people have told you that you are too emotional, too sensitive, or that you need to toughen up. And after hearing that enough times, you may have started to wonder whether they were right. But crying easily is not always a sign of weakness. Sometimes it reveals something important about the way a person experiences the world. The psychology of people who cry easily is often misunderstood because tears are visible, but the process behind them is not. People see the reaction, but they do not see the depth of feeling, the mental layering, or the nervous system that was already carrying more than it seemed. In many cases, crying easily is connected to heightened emotional responsiveness, deeper processing, and a nervous system that registers experience more intensely than average. Some people do not just notice what is happening, they feel more of it while it is happening. It is a little like moving through life without much emotional insulation. For some people, experience arrives softened at the edges. For others, it arrives with almost no buffer at all. Joy reaches them quickly, so does tension, so does sadness. So does the subtle, emotional atmosphere in a room that most people barely notice. This usually appears in three ways. The first is emotional responsiveness. Some people react more strongly to emotionally meaningful experiences. A painful comment, an unexpected kindness, or a memory touched at the wrong moment can bring tears to the surface much faster. That does not necessarily mean poor control. It can simply mean the emotional system activates more easily and more deeply. The second is empathy. People who cry easily often do not just understand emotion in others. They absorb traces of it. They notice pain in a voice, pressure inside a silence, grief hiding behind an ordinary expression. And once that feeling enters awareness, the body may begin responding as if it has stepped into that emotion itself. The third is depth of processing. What looks like crying over one small thing is often not about one small thing at all. Some minds connect the present moment to old memories, private meanings, unresolved fears, and future consequences almost instantly. So the tear that appears now may actually belong to many layers of experience arriving all at once. That is why tears are so often judged unfairly. People see the drop and miss the ocean behind it. And if this kind of sensitivity makes life harder, an obvious question follows. Why does it exist in the first place? Because sensitivity has never been only a burden. In every human group, there was value in the people who noticed subtle changes, read emotional reality accurately, and responded to what others ignored. The same trait that makes someone cry more easily may also make them more compassionate, perceptive, and deeply aware of what is happening beneath the surface. The problem is not sensitivity alone. The problem is the kind of world sensitivity is forced to live inside. Modern life is loud, fast, overstimulating, and often emotionally detached. In that kind of environment, a person who feels deeply can start to believe they are the problem, when in reality they may be reacting normally to an environment that asks human beings to feel less than they naturally do. Some people are like dandelions. They can adapt almost anywhere. Others are more like orchids. They respond more strongly to the conditions around them. In harsh environments, they struggle more visibly. But in the right conditions, they do not just survive. They bloom with a kind of depth and complexity that would never have appeared otherwise. So crying easily does not always mean a person needs to become harder. Sometimes it means they need more understanding, better boundaries, more rest, and an environment that does not punish emotional depth. Tears are not always proof of fragility. Sometimes they are proof that a person has been feeling, processing, and carrying far more than anyone realized. And once that is understood, something begins to change. The shame around crying starts to loosen. The old label of too much begins to lose its power. What once looked like weakness starts to look more like evidence of a system that notices deeply, responds honestly, and refuses to go numb just to appear strong. That is not something to mock. It is not something to outgrow. And it is not something to be ashamed of. It is part of what makes a person profoundly human. If this made you feel understood, I'd really appreciate your support through a like and subscribe. It helps more than you think.